How can I believe you? You just lied under oath a moment ago to Senator Grassley. You've lied to us up and down on this committee. I mean, this is a serious problem, Ms. Campbell. I have to say, I've never seen a witness, never, in 5 years in this committee, sit here and lie to us and change the story person to person. Why are you doing it? What is it? Why are you afraid to tell the truth about workers' dignity? Why have you lied to this committee? Why didn't you disclose it? Why did you lie to Senator Grassley? Why have you changed your story every time you're asked?
Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Campbell, I'm trying to understand your answers to this committee. Let's start with the workers' dignity question, because your truthfulness under oath is surely, I notice my friends across the way now are utterly uninterested in any organization you've been a part of. They're suddenly utterly uninterested in things you wrote in the past. They're utterly uninterested in who you give money to. That wasn't the case just a few years ago, but be that as it may, surely they're interested in your truthfulness. I have now counted, just as I've sat here today, 4 separate answers by you, all of them conflicting as to what exactly was your relationship with workers' dignity. So let's just get this nailed down. First of all, did you disclose your relationship with workers' dignity to this committee? Don't look at the chairman, look at me.
I'm not sure that I included that. I don't remember, Senator.
Oh, I think you do. The answer is no. You did not disclose it to this committee. Then you told Senator Grassley, I've never represented that group. Then you told Senator Lee, next, that you had indeed advised them, and that you'd advised them as a member of a legal advisory board. You said 10 years ago, right? Then you told Senator Cruz that, in fact, you told Senator Lee you'd advised them briefly. You told Senator Cruz, actually, you'd advised them for 3 years. Then you told Senator Durbin that it wasn't 10 years ago, it was 15 years ago. So what is it exactly? You didn't disclose your association with this radical group to the committee. You're currently listed now, your own bio lists you as a legal advisor to the Workers' Dignity Group from 2013 to the present. To the present. The Tennessee Bar Association cited your work with this group for your nomination. So what is the story? When did you start working for workers' dignity?
Senator, more than a decade ago, for 2 or 3 years, I served on a legal advisory committee or board.
So you gave them legal advice.
We were helping them set up as a nonprofit.
So you represented them. So you lied to Senator Grassley earlier when he explicitly asked you, did you do any legal work? And you said no.
Senator,
in fact, you served on a legal advisory board. That's your testimony now. Correct?
Senator, I served on this board.
On a legal advisory board, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you lied to Senator Grassley here under oath. What else have you lied about? Workers' Dignity has condemned Israel's ethnic cleansing of Palestine. They have said that Israel is engaged in ethnic cleansing. Do you agree with that?
No, Senator.
How can I believe you? You just lied under oath a moment ago to Senator Grassley. You've lied to us up and down on this committee. I mean, this is a serious problem, Ms. Campbell. I have to say, I've never seen a witness, never, in 5 years in this committee, sit here and lie to us and change the story person to person. Why are you doing it? What is it? Why are you afraid to tell the truth about workers' dignity? Why have you lied to this committee? Why didn't you disclose it? Why did you lie to Senator Grassley? Why have you changed your story every time you're asked?
Senator, I have not lied to you today. I've tried to represent my participation with this group.
What you've done is you've misrepresented your participation with this group. You apologize to Senator Cruz for any confusion. You've created the confusion deliberately. Deliberately. Let's talk about something else that you've created confusion for. The biggest political donation that you've ever made is to Odessa Kelly, this radical candidate who said that members of this committee are Satanists, who endorsed violence. Why did you give money to Odessa Kelly? Over $1,000. I mean, that's not nothing. That may be nothing to you. That's not nothing to most people. Why did you give money, the most money you've ever given, to this person?
Senator, Miss Kelly lives in my neighborhood. She's one of my neighbors.
And you agreed with her views?
No, on those views that you've read, I don't agree with them.
Oh, I haven't read any of them. I'm just asking you. Do you agree with her views? I mean, you gave her more money than anybody else. Your governor, your state senator, your attorney general. You gave her the most.
I do not agree with all of her views, no, Senator.
Well, which ones do you agree with? Can you name one?
Senator, I know that she is my neighbor, and I'm a neighborly person.
Oh, I see. You're a neighborly person. Well, I tell you this. You have represented to this committee that you didn't know what Odessa Kelly said and the outrageous, frankly, outrageous things that she said and did. You said you didn't know anything about workers' dignity. You lied to us about your association with that group. You said you didn't know anything about the Tennessee, the Tennessee Immigrant Refugee Rights Coalition, who thanks you personally in their introduction. You said you didn't know anything about that. I mean, either all of these people are liars or you are, Ms. Campbell. It's one or the other. It's quite a pattern. Maybe they all are. But given what you've told us under oath today, I think the answer is you are. And for that reason, you are utterly unqualified to sit on the federal bench.
Ms. Campbell, you lied to Senator Grassley, didn't you?
No, Senator.
You told Senator Grassley that you've never represented workers' dignity, didn't you?
That is correct, Senator.
That's not true, is it?
Senator, I have never represented that organization.
Yes, ma'am. That's not true, is it?
Senator, it is true. I served for a period of 2 or 3 years, more than a decade ago, on an advisory board to help them set up as a nonprofit.
In fact, you were so supportive of workers' dignity that not only did you represent them, you didn't charge them a fee. Isn't that correct?
Senator, when I was on their advisory board more than a decade ago, I did volunteer my time.
Right. You know what this is? Do you recognize that picture?
No, Senator.
This is from Workers' Dignity's website. There you are, right here. It's got your name. Wow. Judge Lopez, you have more sympathy for the criminal than the victim, don't you?
Senator, I worked on behalf of victims of crime zealously as a prosecutor. As a judge, I listened carefully to understand impact on victims, and I have always take that into account.
Do you know Micah Smith?
Michael Smith, Senator?
Micah, M-I-C-H.
I don't believe I know a Micah Smith, Senator, no.
Okay. I bet the victims of Micah Smith remember Micah Smith if you don't.
Senator, there was a defendant I sentenced named Michael Smith.
Mr. Smith molested a 4-year-old girl, didn't he?
Senator, he was convicted after trial of unlawful sexual contact under Maine law.
That's a nice way of putting it.
That was the charge, Senator.
Right. Mr. Smith molested a 9-year-old girl, didn't he?
Senator, again, he was convicted of unlawful sexual contact against 2 children. In that case, I did impose the sentence the state requested.
At oral argument, this is how Mr. Smith's conduct was described. Quote, you heard this testimony. All of the abuse is done in the same fashion. Smith would rub his fingers in a circular motion on the vagina of each child, and he did so repeatedly. Now, where I come from, we call that sexual abuse. You can pretty it up all you want to, Judge. This is what you said at Mr. Micah's sentencing. These are your words, not mine. What I can say, you said, is that this is a very tragic situation of a person who has a lot of good in him. A lot of good in him. Having done a very reprehensible thing to 2 young children causing extreme damage. Did I read that correctly?
Senator, in that case, I imposed the sentence the state requested.
Did I read that, your quotation, correctly?
Senator, that I think is a portion of what I said at sentencing. My focus was on.
But the words I read, are they correct?
That's what was reported in the paper, Senator. I have not seen a transcript of the sentencing.
I bet the victims remember, Judge. You might have forgotten.
Senator Cruz. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Lopez, I'm going to quickly note there's a reason the Democrats have scheduled you on this panel, because you have a long pattern of sentencing criminal defendants to egregiously light sentences, including one child molester who molested a 4-year-old and 9-year-old, and you sentenced him to only 6 years in prison, including, as we heard before, one woman who was responsible for killing her 1-year-old son, who was coated in fentanyl. His pajamas were coated in fentanyl. His sheets were coated in fentanyl. You could have sentenced her to 30 years. You sentenced her to only 4 years. It's an egregious pattern, but the reason you're put on this panel is the Democrats know that most Republicans will not have time to question you about that terrible record, because your colleague on this panel, her record is even worse. Ms. Campbell, I will say I have seen some astonishing nominees from this administration, but I have to admit your record takes the cake. A judge should not be a political activist. Your record demonstrates to me a long history of being a political activist, but not just an activist who affiliates with extreme and radical organizations. Now, when Senator Grassley asked you about the Workers' Dignity Organization, you gave, I think, deliberately misleading answer. You said you did not represent them, and that convinced Senator Grassley not to continue on that line of questioning. You have been a legal advisor to that organization since 2013. That is what you have publicly printed on your AVO biography. It is what has been described in the Tennessee Bar Association when you were nominated. It explicitly says she served as a legal advisor for local workers' rights nonprofit Workers' Dignity. Now, why is it you're distancing yourself from them? The reason is because they are utterly radical. If you look at this group that you've served as the legal advisor for over a decade, this is an openly Marxist organization. This is a communist organization. Now, those words are not said lightly. According to their own characterization of their views, this group says there's no election outcome that improves conditions for workers. The laws of this country have never worked for our people, and now that the system is crumbling, we will continue to stand in community and solidarity with each other. The only way we win in a world we deserve is by building a multiracial working class revolution that can push out white nationalism, violent state racism, and the capitalist class that is desperately clutching to hold control and profits as the people rise up. Why have you spent a decade as a legal advisor to an openly communist and Marxist organization? I don't think your microphone's on.
I apologize, Senator. If I could briefly clarify, more than a decade ago, probably for the course of 2 or 3 years, I served on an advisory board that helped this, at the time, was supposed to be a nonprofit workers' rights organization get set up and get started.
Did you know they were a communist organization?
Senator, at that time, they did not express these kinds of views. It was an organization.
So this is new. This wasn't the case then.
Yes, and I have not been affiliated with them in more than a decade.
You're aware that your current profile that you have up, your legal bio, says you are right now an advisor to them.
I apologize for any confusion about that.
So your testimony under oath, and that's all right, the facts will come out, but your testimony, I want to make it explicit. Your testimony under oath is that you have done absolutely nothing and had zero contact with them for how long?
I have not served on their advisory board for
You've done absolutely nothing and had zero contact with them for how long? Please answer the question.
many, many years.
How many?
I don't know, sitting here today. It's been many
Okay,
years.
if you look at other statements from this organization, because they are radicals. They are radicals. If you look also, this is the same group in 2020. They called for abolishing ICE, abolishing prisons and detention centers, and abolishing the police. Why did you volunteer for a communist organization that calls for abolishing ICE and abolishing the police?
Senator, I have never seen these comments before.
You didn't know who you were volunteering for?
I was not a volunteer for them at that
You were a legal advisor. Were you paid?
No, I was
Then
not.
you were a volunteer. If you volunteered to be a legal advisor, you were a volunteer. Why did you volunteer? Do you support abolishing ICE?
Senator, at this time, I
Do
had.
you support abolishing ICE?
I do not, Senator.
Well, it's amazing because a minute ago you also told Senator Graham that the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition that has a manifesto calling for abolishing ICE, you said you had nothing to do with it, which is fairly astonishing because on page 3 of their manifesto, they thank you by name for what they say. We would like to thank the following individuals and organizations for their thoughtful feedback and input. This platform would not have been possible without their expertise. Are they lying?
Senator, I'm not familiar with that manifesto.
Are they lying? Did you provide any assistance? Did you give feedback and input, which is what they say on the cover page?
Senator, I didn't even know that existed, and so no, I did not provide input on it.
And why, when Senator Graham asked why you gave money to this radical candidate who has said 52 senators are Jim Crow senators and said multiple of us are siding with the devil, you laughed and thought that was funny. But Senator Graham asked you a question. Look, that candidate was as radical as I've ever seen. And when Senator Graham asked why you gave money to that candidate, you just smiled and didn't answer. So why did you give money to a radical candidate who believes multiple members of the Senate are siding with the devil?
Senator,
Actually, Senator Whitehouse, you weren't here before, but there was an exchange with the chairman where Senator Kennedy asked for longer periods because you have 2 circuit justices, and the chairman said he was going to give additional time. So the comment, they want to be gavelled as part of the show, is not accurate, and Senator Welch said he was going to give additional time. In fact, he said at the beginning he was going to give 6 minutes. So my question, you did not answer Senator Graham.
Mr. Chairman, how much time has expired? How much time has expired? I just want to clarify. I just walked in.
Why did you give money?
6 minutes? Because it seems like more than 6 has passed.
Why did you give money to this radical? Put up the devil one too. Why did you give money to this radical candidate? $1,500, a lot of money. That's a question.
Senator, again, I'm not familiar with these comments.
Why did you give money to this radical candidate? What? Could you let her answer the question, please?
I'm not familiar with these comments, and
Why did you give money to her? That's the question. You're not going to answer? You're refusing to answer why you gave money to her.
Senator, I'm not familiar with these
That's not an answer. My answer is, why did you? What is the affirmative reason? You gave $1,500. There was something you saw in her that you said, this needs $1,500. Why? Please answer that question.
Time has expired.
Would you please ask the witness to answer the question? She's refusing to answer it. It's indefensible, but answer. Was there any reason? Or do you just give $1,500 to anyone?
Senator, your time has expired.
I would like her to answer the question. And you said she could answer the question. She has refused to do so multiple times. Please answer the question, Ms. Campbell.
She answered the question.
No, she did not. She said she didn't know those comments. That's not why she gave the money.
Senator.
Can I ask you why she gave the money?
No.
You don't know because she hasn't answered. Are you going to answer, Ms. Campbell, or does this committee not deserve to know why you gave money to a radical who says we are aligned?
Mr. Chairman, I have a lot of other senators have busy days. Can we get on with the next person?
So you don't want an answer to the question either, Senator Booker?
I just want to say for the
Are you able to answer the
record,
question, Ms. Campbell, or do you believe this committee doesn't deserve an answer to that question?
Mr. Chairman,
So you're silent. You're just refusing to answer.
Who's next?
The senator's time has expired. If the senator doesn't like the answer,
it's not an answer. She sat there silently and has not spoken. That is, by definition, not an answer.
Senator from Connecticut. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to our nominees. Ms. Lanthier, your daughter's name is Addison or Allison?
My daughter's name is Allison.
Allison. And Allison's here.
Allison is here. My grandchild, Rona, is also here.
Allison, would you like to say anything? If you change your mind, just let me know, okay, and I'll
If you
stop.
say anything, be careful, Senator Kennedy.
Ms. Henry, let's talk a little law. If I challenge a rule under the Administrative Procedures Act, what do I have to prove?
Thank you for that
You are welcome.
question. Senator, in the 25 plus years that I've been trying cases in federal court and in state court, I've never had to bring a claim under the Administrative Procedures Act, so I'm not sure of what's required.
You don't know the answer?
I don't.
Okay. All right, let me ask you this. You'll probably see this in district court. Is partisan gerrymandering legal?
Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
I think that I think that I would have to evaluate that claim if it were before me, and in doing so, I would look at what's involved in.
But is it legal?
Senator, I don't. I have not had that issue before me in my years.
Do you know what
of
it
practice.
is?
I do understand. What I understand is when the districts are separated, voting districts, based on different political groups.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Is it legal or illegal?
Senator, I haven't had that issue before me in my 30 years of practice.
You don't know?
So, but if I'm faced with that issue, I would research it and I'd be prepared to address it.
Okay. All right. Do you know what a blue law is?
I'm sorry, Senator?
Do you know what a blue law is?
A blue law is,
Studied that in law school, I'm sure.
I believe a blue law, Senator, is having to do with selling alcohol on certain days.
Yeah, like usually on Sunday.
Like, yes, Senator.
Yeah. Does that violate the Establishment Clause? Does a blue law, let me be more precise, I'm sorry. Does a blue law violate the Establishment Clause?
Senator, I don't believe a blue law does violate the Establishment Clause.
Okay, why not?
Well, because, Senator...
If a legislature says you can't open and sell, let's say, food or anything on Sunday, not Thursday, not Saturday, Sunday, why doesn't that violate the Establishment Clause?
Senator, I think there was an issue in a recent Supreme Court case that talked about whether they could force, it was a postal worker, to have to work on Sundays because that violated his religious beliefs to have to work on Sundays. And what the
that wasn't under the blue law.
Oh no, I thought yes, I understand that. I understand that was an issue though related to the Establishment Clause, which I thought was what we were talking about.
But I'm asking just a real precise question. I'm going to move on if you don't know.
Okay.
Tell me why, just succinctly, like you were back in law school.
Okay.
Why a blue law violates or doesn't violate the Establishment Clause? It seems obvious.
Well, the issue is whether, in looking at the Establishment Clause, of whether the action of the state in saying that you can't be open on a Sunday would would either interfere with the free exercise of the persons, or it would be the government establishing a religion.
Yeah, I understand the issue.
Okay. So
what's the answer?
So the answer is that I believe that there's case law on the fact that there can be blue laws that allow alcohol stores or places that sell alcohol to not be open on Sundays.
Okay. Tell me the difference between proximate cause and cause in fact.
Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
So my understanding of proximate cause is something that's directly caused by something is cause in fact, and if it's inadvertent, I believe it would be proximate cause. But as I said, in my 30 years of practicing criminal law, that type of causation is not the type that we usually address. It's usually whether something's intentional, and that's most relevant to our criminal practice.
I don't understand what you just said.
I'm saying when you talk
Let's try
about...
it again.
Okay.
What's the difference between proximate cause and cause in fact?
My understanding of it, Senator, and because it has not come up in my 30 years of criminal practice, is that we look to whether something was directly caused or inadvertently caused, and that would be the idea of the difference between the two levels of causation. And I was only saying that in my criminal practice, when we look at whether something is caused, we look at the intent of a statute or of someone's action.
Intent has nothing to do with it.
I know, I understand
You
that.
don't
I
have
was
to prove
just simply,
intent
I was explaining
in
the
a
difference
civil
from
case.
Yes, I understand that.
That's criminal.
Yes, correct.
All right. Tell me about the consumer welfare standard.
The senator's time is close to expiring.
How much time do I have left, Mr. Chairman? It's just you and me.
Okay.
We're down to the big guns here. Can you just tell me about the consumer welfare standard real fast?
Senator, in my 30 years of practice, I've never, in numerous jury trials, I've never encountered the consumer welfare standard. Is that what you said, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
I have not. I don't know.
You don't know what it is?
No, but if I came across that case,
You'd look it up.
I sure would.
Okay, you're going to be doing a lot of looking up, it sounds to me like. All right, Allison, did you change your mind? Anything you want to say? You sure?
I'm good.
Okay, how about vote for your mom?
Yeah, do that.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.